I didn't notice it at first. That's the part that still gets me. How quiet it was. No slam doors. No obvious lies. Just a sliver of light under my office door at 2 in the morning. I'd gotten back from a deposition at the Dirksen Federal Building around 10. Lauren was at the dining table, reading a motion to dismiss, her hair pulled back, glasses halfway down her nose. She looked up when I dropped my bag. Long day? She asked. Long enough. I said, yours? Same. She didn't elaborate. That wasn't unusual. We were both lawyers, she criminal defense, me private investigations with focus on financial fraud, and we'd learned not to bleed work onto each other unless it mattered. I kissed the top of her head and went upstairs. My office was at the end of the hall. The manila folder was exactly where I'd left it, tucked into the bottom drawer of my filing cabinet, behind the LLC paperwork and the old tax returns. I didn't open it. I just needed to know it was there. The next morning, I woke up needing water. On my way back from the kitchen, I saw it again, light under the office door. I pushed it open. Lauren was at my desk. She closed the laptop slowly. Couldn't sleep, she said. What are you doing in here? Reading. She nodded toward the drawer. You keep things locked up like they're nuclear codes. Because sometimes they are. I said, since when you go through my files? I didn't go through anything. I saw the light on earlier. Thought, maybe you forgot to shut it off. I stepped past her and opened the drawer. The folder was there, but it felt off. I flipped it open. The tabs were in the wrong order. Pages I'd paperclipped together weren't. You move stuff. I said. I glanced at a few things. That's it. Glanced. Ethan, don't ether me. You don't glance at evidence I'm sitting on for a client. Especially not when your ex-husband's name is all over half of it. Her expression didn't change, but her voice got quieter. Daniel's case is public record. Anything you have, I could get through discovery. Not this. Not the internal audit reports. Not the emails with the metadata stripped by his IT guy. That's why I'm sitting on it. Because if the wrong person sees it before I'm ready, the whole thing gets tainted. Maybe the right person already has, she said. I stared at her. What's that supposed to mean? She stood up. It means you think in straight lines. Ethan, guilty or not guilty, admissible or not. But the real world doesn't work that way. Sometimes protecting someone isn't the same as lying. Protecting who? She didn't answer. Lauren, Daniel's going to get crucified by the U.S. Attorney's office. You know that. I know that. He made mistakes. Sure, but he's not the monster they're making him out to be. He embezzled from a federal grant program. That's not a mistake. That's 20 years. And you're so sure your little file proves it? I'm sure enough that I haven't turned it over yet. And I'm sure enough that I don't want my wife, his ex-wife, anywhere near it. She walked to the door, then paused. If you turn me in, you destroy us both. I'm not turning you in. I'm telling you to stay out my work. You think this stays between us? You're already compromised. You're married to opposing counsel. I'm not counsel. I'm not even a witness. I'm the guy holding the receipts. She looked at me for a long moment. Then she left. I sat down and went through the folder page by page. 3 exhibits were missing. The bank transfer logs from First Midwest, the internal memo from the CFO dated March 2nd, and the screenshot of the encrypted chat. All of it pointed directly to Daniel Carter. All of it was now in Lauren's hands. I called her cell, straight to voicemail. I texted, we need to talk. Don't do anything stupid. No reply. By noon, I was at the office, my actual office, on LaSalle Street. My partner, Marcus, was at the coffee machine. You look like hell, he said. Feel like it. Still fighting with Lauren? Something like that. He poured me a cup. Let me guess. Daniel Carter came up again. I didn't answer. Marcus leaned against the counter. Look, I get it. She's loyal. But that loyalty's got a shelf life. You start letting her play in your sandbox. You're going to find out real fast whose side she's really on. She says she didn't take anything. And you believe her? I thought about the missing pages. No, then you got a problem. Because if she introduces that evidence in his defense, and it traces back to you, You're not just an investigator anymore. You're a co-conspirator in obstruction. I haven't handed anything over, but you kept it from the feds. That's withholding. That's a felony. I rub my eyes. I need to see what she's planning. You need to see a lawyer. I am a lawyer. Then act like one. Get ahead of this. Talk to Rachel Mendez. Rachel was the AUSA handling Daniel's case. I'd worked with her before, professionally, cleanly. If anyone could tell me whether Lauren had already made her move, it was Rachel. I called her direct line. Mendez. Rachel. It's Ethan Price. Pause. Ethan. This related to the Carter matter? Indirectly. I'm listening. Has defense counsel introduced any new exhibits in the last 48 hours? Specifically, bank records or internal memos. Another pause. Longer this time. Why are you asking? Because I think my wife might have accessed material she shouldn't have. Silence. Rachel? Ethan, I can't talk about ongoing discovery, but I will say this. If you have information relevant to United States v. Carter, you have a duty to disclose it, voluntarily, before I have to subpoena you. Understood. Do I need to subpoena you? Not yet. Don't wait too long. She hung up. I sat there for a full minute. Then I called Lauren again. This time she answered. Ethan, where are you? Office. We need to meet. I'm busy. Lauren, I just talked to Rachel Mendez. She knows something's up. If you've already filed those exhibits, you need to pull them. I can't pull them. Then you need to tell me what you filed. I told you, protecting someone isn't the same as lying. That's not a legal defense. That's a suicide note. She sighed. Meet me at the diner on Adams. 30 minutes. When I got there, she was already in a booth. A folder on the table. She slid it toward me. I opened it. Inside were the exact pages I'd been missing, but they'd been altered. The dates were shifted. The sender names changed. The chat screenshot was gone entirely. You forged evidence. I said, I corrected the record. You doctored bank logs. Lauren, that's not correction. That's fabrication. The government's version is incomplete. I filled in the gaps. With lies. With context. I leaned back. You're going to get disbarred. I'm going to win. You're going to jail. She smiled faintly. Then I guess you'll have to decide whose side you're on. I'm on the side of not committing felonies. Then walk away. Don't tell Rachel. Don't tell Marcus. Let me handle this my way. Your way ends with a verdict that gets overturned on appeal, or worse, a conviction for you. Or it ends with Daniel walking free. And what about us? She looked at me then. Really looked. I already chose. Ethan, I chose him. Not because I love him. Because I owe him. Owe him what? The truth. The real one. Not the one the feds are selling. I stood up. I'm not part of this. You already are. You kept the file. You didn't turn it over. That makes you an accessory. I'll turn it over now, and I'll say you gave it to me, that we planned this together. They won't believe you. They might, especially when they see how cozy we've been the last 5 years. I stared at her. You'd throw me under the bus. I'd do what I have to. I grabbed the folder and walked out, back at my office. I locked the folder in the safe. Then I opened a new document on my computer and started typing. A timeline of everything that had happened since I brought the file home. Every conversation. Every missing page. Every altered exhibit. By the time Marcus knocked on my door at 6, I had 12 pages. You okay? He asked. No. Talk to me. I told him everything. When I finished, he didn't speak for a while. Then he said, you need to proffer. To Rachel? Yeah. Get immunity. Tell her everything before Lauren does. And if I don't, then you're choosing her over yourself. And I don't think she's choosing you back. That night, I didn't go home. I stayed at a hotel near Midway. I couldn't sleep. I kept seeing Lauren's face when she said, I already chose. Chose Daniel. Chose loyalty over law. Chose winning over truth. At 2 a.m., my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. You should have burned the file when you had the chance. I sat up. Another text. Too late now. I called the number. No answer. I forwarded both texts to Rachel Mendez with a single line. We need to talk. Tomorrow. My office. Then I deleted the messages. Somewhere across the city, Lauren was probably awake too, probably staring at the same evidence I was, probably thinking she could still control the outcome. She couldn't, because I wasn't going to let her destroy me to save him. And if that meant burning everything she'd built, so be it. I didn't sleep past 4. By 5:30, I was at my office, running the unknown number through every database I had access to. Burner phone, purchased in Skokie 2 days ago, paid in cash. No surprises. Marcus showed up at 7 with 2 black coffees and a bag of bagels. He didn't say good morning. You hear from her? He asked. Lauren? No, she's not at your place. I drove by. Of course you did. Ethan, she's either lawyering up or lawyering down. There's no middle ground. I opened my email. Rachel Mendez had already replied. 9 a.m., my office. Come alone. I've got a meeting with Mendez. I said. Marcus set his coffee down hard. You're proffering? I'm talking. Talking leads to proffering. Proffering leads to immunity. Immunity leads to testifying. You sure you're ready for that? I'm ready to not go to prison. He nodded slowly. Just remember, once you're in, you don't get out. Rachel's not your friend. She's building a case. Against Lauren. Maybe against you. If you screw this up. I'm not screwing it up. I hope not. Because if Lauren finds out you're cooperating before she flips, you're not just an ex-husband. You're a witness. And witnesses have accidents. Don't be dramatic. I'm not. I've seen it. White-collar types get creative when the feds come knocking. I stood. I need to prep. Ethan. I stopped. Don't hold back. If you give Rachel half the story, she'll bury you for the other half. Give her everything. Dates. Times. What she took. What she changed. What she said. Especially what she said. I grabbed my jacket. See you after. Rachel's office smelled like stale coffee and drywall dust. Renovations. Typical DOJ cost-cutting. She didn't offer me a seat. You said we need to talk. I got threats on a burner last night. From who? Unknown. But the timing lines up with Lauren accessing my files. You're speculating. I'm connecting dots. She sat on the edge of her desk. Let's start with the files. What exactly did your wife take? 3 exhibits. Bank transfer logs from First Midwest, dated January through March. An internal memo from Carter's CFO, dated March 2nd. And a screenshot of an encrypted chat between Carter and his IT director. And you had these how? Private investigation. Client retained me to look into irregularities in a nonprofit Carter used to run. I gathered the evidence. But I hadn't turned it over yet because I was verifying chain of custody. Why hadn't you turned it over to us? Because my client hadn't decided whether to cooperate. And because I didn't want the evidence tainted if Lauren caught wind of it. But she did. Yes. When? 2 nights ago. I came home. Found her in my office. The next morning. The pages were missing. And altered? Yes. Dates shifted. Names changed. The chat screenshot removed entirely. Rachel tapped a pen against her thigh. You have originals? Locked in my safe. Bring them to me. Today. I need immunity. You need leverage. Right now, you're a guy who sat on evidence and didn't report it. That's withholding. That's obstruction. I'm reporting it now. After your wife used it. After it showed up in Discovery. I leaned forward. You already have it in Discovery? I didn't say that. Rachel. She held my stare. Let's just say defense counsel filed a motion to admit certain financial records yesterday afternoon. Records that look an awful lot like the ones you're describing. She filed them? She did. Without notifying me. You're not co-counsel. You're not even supposed to have the evidence. Which raises a question. How do you have it? Ethan? I collected it legally. Under contract. With a client. Who is? I can't disclose that without violating privilege. Then we've got a problem. Because if I subpoena your client and they confirm you sat on exculpatory evidence, it's not exculpatory. It's proof of guilt. That's not your call. That's mine. Or a judge's. And if your wife got it from you, even indirectly, you're in the chain. I stood. I didn't give it to her. But you didn't stop her. You didn't report it until after she filed. That's a problem. So what's the play? You bring me the originals. You give me a sworn statement. You testify before the grand jury if I need you to. In exchange, I recommend you use immunity. You don't get charged. You don't get disbarred. But you talk. Everything. And Lauren, she gets indicted. Probably today or tomorrow. We've been building to this. Your evidence just moved the needle. I nodded. I'll bring the files. 9:30. My assistant will log you in. I left without shaking her hand. Back at the office. Marcus was on the phone. He hung up when I walked in. Well, she's filing charges. Soon. You give her the files? I'm bringing them at 9:30. Good. You do that. You're officially a cooperating witness, which means Lauren's going to find out real fast. Let her. You don't get it. She's not just your wife. She's a defense attorney. She knows how to play the game. She'll come at you professionally, personally, financially, divorce, ethics complaints, malpractice suits. You name it. I can handle it. Can you? Because I've seen what happens when two lawyers go to war. It's not pretty. And you're not just fighting her. You're fighting Daniel Carter and his new attorney of record. He's got a new attorney, filed this morning. Jonathan Voss. I swore under my breath. Voss was a shark. Former federal prosecutor. Now defense. He and Lauren had worked together at Brantley Shaw before she made partner. Voss is representing Daniel? Yep. And guess who referred him? I didn't have to guess. Lauren. Bingo. So now you've got Voss breathing down your neck, Rachel breathing down Lauren's, and a judge who's not thrilled about last-minute evidentiary bombshells. I opened my safe and pulled the folder. I need to copy these. Already did. Marcus slid a USB drive across the desk. Scanned everything this morning. Metadata intact. Chain of custody documented. If Lauren tries to say you tampered, we got the originals and the scans. Thanks. Don't thank me yet. You're about to become public enemy number one in your own house. At 9:28, I walked into the U.S. attorney's office with the folder. Rachel met me in the hall. Conference room 3. She said, "We'll take your statement. Then I'm presenting this to the grand jury this afternoon. What's the charge? Multiple. Obstruction of justice. Tampering with evidence. Conspiracy to defraud the United States. Take your pick. And Lauren, she'll be arrested after the indictment. We'll notify her firm first. Professional courtesy." I nodded. I need one thing. What? Keep my name out of the initial filings. At least until after I talk to her. Rachel considered that. 24 hours. Then it's public record. Fair. I gave my statement for 2 hours. Swore under penalty of perjury. Signed the immunity agreement. Left through the back entrance. My phone rang as I got to my car. Unknown number. I answered. Ethan. Lauren's voice. Calm. Too calm. How'd you get this number? I'm your wife. I know things. Where are you? None of your business. You're at the Dirksen building. Aren't you? I didn't answer. I can feel it, she said. You're doing it. You're flipping. You left me no choice. I gave you a choice. Stay quiet. Let me handle it. But you couldn't. You had to play hero. I'm not playing anything. I'm cleaning up your mess. My mess? Ethan, you're the one who sat on evidence. You're the one who kept it from the feds. I just repurposed it. You forged it. I contextualized it. Contextualizing is for briefs. What you did is a felony. She laughed softly. You really think Rachel Mendez gives a damn about you? You're a means to an end. Once she's got her conviction. You're yesterday's news. Maybe, but at least I'm not wearing orange. Silence. Then, you know what the worst part is? Enlighten me. I actually thought you'd choose us. Choose me. Over the job. Over the truth. Over all of it. I did choose us. I chose us by not turning you in sooner. Liar. You chose yourself. Just like you always do. She hung up. I sat in my car for 5 minutes, staring at the wheel. Then I drove to a hotel and checked in under a fake name. I couldn't go home. Not tonight. Not with Rachel's indictment looming and Lauren knowing I was at the federal building. At 6 p.m., Marcus called. It's done, he said. Grand jury returned the indictment. Lauren's been notified. She's lawyered up. Voss. Obviously. Is she in custody? Not yet. Turned herself involuntarily. Arraignment tomorrow morning. Judge Castillo. Bond? Probably high. But Voss will argue she's not a flight risk. She's got ties to the community. A job. A husband. Oh, wait. Funny. Seriously. Ethan, you need to lay low. Voss is going to come after you hard. Discovery requests. Depositions. Subpoenas. He'll try to paint you as the bad actor. Let him try. He will. And Lauren? She's going to use every conversation you've ever had against you. Every text. Every email. Every late-night fight. I've got nothing to hide. You better not. Because if there's even a whiff of inconsistency, Rachel will drop your immunity faster than you can say perjury. I hung up and ordered room service. I didn't eat. I just sat there watching the local news. At 10 o'clock, they broke the story. Prominent defense attorney charged in federal fraud case. They flashed Lauren's photo. Then Daniel's. Then a courthouse sketch of us. No mention of me. Yet, but it was coming. I knew it the way I knew the sun would rise. Lauren would drag me into the mud with her. And I'd have to decide again whose side I was really on. Only this time, there wouldn't be a choice. Because the truth didn't care about loyalty. And neither did the law. I didn't go to the arraignment. Marcus said I shouldn't show my face until the judge ruled on discovery. He was right, but it still felt like cowardice. By 9 a.m., the firm was already circling the wagons. Brantley Shaw issued a statement. Ms. Price has taken a leave of absence pending resolution of these matters. Translation. She was radioactive. My phone blew up anyway. Reporters. Partners. Even Daniel Carter's brother left a message. I didn't return any of them. At 10:30, Rachel called. You watching? She asked. Watching what? Carter's trial. It's starting today. Judge Castillo moved it up. Voss moved for expedited trial. Granted. I sat up. They're starting now. Opening statements this morning. You should see what your wife's doing. I'm not stepping foot in that courtroom. Suit yourself. But you might want to know she's leading with your evidence. I was already reaching for my keys. Which part? All of it. The bank logs. The memo. Even the chat reconstructed. Apparently, she's claiming the government suppressed exculpatory material. That you sat on it. That you're biased because of your marriage. She's putting me on the stand? Not yet. But she's laying the groundwork. If I were you, I'd get my calendar clear. I hung up and drove to the Dirksen building. Parked 2 blocks away. Walked in through the basement entrance. No reporters down there. Security was tight. I went through the metal detector. Took the elevator to the 10th floor. Courtroom 1028. I slipped into the gallery just as Voss was finishing his opening. And you will hear from witnesses who were never interviewed by the FBI. You will see documents the government tried to hide. Documents Mr. Carter's ex-wife, Lauren Price, fought to bring to light, despite personal cost. Because justice isn't about winning. It's about truth. Truth. He said it like a prayer. Lauren sat at counsel table, back straight, not looking at me. Daniel was next to her, relaxed, like he hadn't just been indicted for embezzling federal funds. The prosecutor, a younger AUSA named Patel, stood for the government. Ladies and gentlemen, this is not a case about hidden documents. This is a case about greed, about a man who stole from a program designed to help veterans, and about a defense team willing to manufacture evidence to protect him. Manufacture. There it was. Patel continued. You will hear from forensic accountants, from IT specialists, and yes, from a cooperating witness who will explain exactly how certain key pieces of evidence were altered, dates changed, names removed, context erased. Because when the truth doesn't fit the narrative changes the truth. I felt eyes on me. A report or two rose back. I looked away. After the openings, the judge called a recess. I stayed put. Lauren walked past me on her way out. Didn't glance down, but Voss did. He stopped. Ethan, Jonathan, you're braver than I thought. I'm not here to testify. Yet, but you will be. Rachel's already listed you as a witness for the government. Page 14 of her disclosure. I'm aware. Good. Because Lauren's going to tear you apart. She's got every email you sent her since January. Every text, including the ones where you complain about the feds overreaching. She's going to say you're biased, that you're angry because she left you. She didn't leave me. Semantics. You're separated, living in a hotel. That's leaving. Ethan, and the jury is going to hear it. I stood. You're wasting your breath. Am I? Or am I saving you the embarrassment of taking the stand unprepared? Because I've seen your type before. Investigators who think they're neutral until their personal lives implode. Then suddenly, every fact is filtered through resentment. I don't resent her. I resent what she did. Same difference to a jury. He walked off. I left the courtroom before Lauren came back. Went downstairs to Rachel's temporary office. She was reviewing exhibits. You saw it, she said. I saw it. She's aggressive. She's desperate. Same thing. Here's the problem. Voss is going to move to exclude your testimony on relevance. He'll argue your evidence is cumulative, prejudicial, or both. I need you rock solid. I'm solid. Then prove it. I want a declaration, under oath, detailing every interaction with Lauren regarding the Carter investigation, every file she accessed, every alteration you detected, every threat you received. I'll have it by tonight. Good. Also, expect a subpoena from Voss. He'll want to depose you before you testify. I figured. Don't figure. Prepare. And Ethan, don't talk to Lauren. Don't text her. Don't even look at her if you can help it. Anything you say can and will be used to impeach you. I nodded. Understood. Back at the hotel. I wrote the declaration. 10 single-space pages. Attached exhibits. Scanned everything. Emailed it to Rachel at 7 p.m. At 8:15, my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Ethan. Lauren's voice. Tired now. How'd you get this number? Hotel records. Don't ask. Listen, I need you to do something. Not interested. It's not for me. It's for Daniel. Hang up. He didn't do it. Ethan, not all of it. The grant money was mismanaged. Yes, but he didn't pocket it. The CFO did. Myron Briggs. You remember him? I remember. He's the one who forged the transfers. Daniel found out too late. That's why he tried to cover it up. That's why he deleted the chats. Not to hide theft, to hide incompetence. And you expect me to believe that? I expect you to look at the evidence. Really look. The March 2nd memo. Read it again. The signature's forged. Briggs signed it. Not Daniel. You already altered that memo once. I corrected it. Big difference. Not to a jury. Silence. Then, you're really going to let them destroy me. You destroyed yourself. And us? There is no us. Not anymore. She exhaled. Fine. But when this is over, when I'm disbarred, when Daniel's convicted, you'll have to live with what you did, turning on your own wife to save your own skin. I'm not saving my skin. I'm stopping you from destroying the system. The system was broken before I touched it. I just worked around the edges. You broke the law. So, did you? You sat on evidence. You delayed disclosure. You're only coming forward now because you got caught. I'm coming forward because it's the right thing to do. Right for who? The government? Rachel Mendez? She's using you. Ethan, the second you're not useful, she'll drop you. And then what? You'll be alone. No wife. No career. Just a guy who ratted out the woman he loved. I hung up, but her words stuck. Because she was right about one thing. Rachel was using me, and I was letting her, because the alternative was worse. At 10 p.m., Marcus called. You see the news? No. Voss just held a press conference. Claimed Lauren's under duress. Said the government's coercing her through you. That you're a hostile witness being manipulated by the AUSA's office. He's reaching. He's planting doubt. And it's working. I've got 3 clients already asking if you're reliable. 2 more said they're reconsidering retention. I didn't ask for this. Doesn't matter. Perception is reality. You're toxic right now. Ethan, the only way out is through. Testify. Clean. Strong. No hesitation. Otherwise, Voss will pick you apart. I know. Do you? Because if you flinch on the stand, if you so much as pause when he asks if you love your wife, he'll own you. I don't love her. Tell that to the jury. I didn't sleep. I rehearsed. Question after question. Voss's voice in my head. Did you withhold evidence? Did you threaten your wife? Did you hope Daniel Carter would go to prison? By morning, I had answers. Short ones. Direct. At 9 a.m. Rachel texted. Subpoena served. Deposition at 2. Be ready. I spent the morning reviewing files. At 1:30, I met Marcus at his office. He grilled me for an hour. Remember, he said, you're not on trial, but you're the star witness. If you crumble, the whole case crumbles. I won't crumble. You better not, because Lauren's counting on it. The deposition was at a neutral suite downtown. Voss was already there, leaning against the table. Lauren sat beside him, dressed in charcoal gray. No glasses today. She looked steady. I sat across from them. Court reporter between us. Voss started easy. Name, address, employment history. Then he pivoted. Mr. Price, isn't it true that you've been separated from your wife since early this month? We're living apart. Yes. Because of marital discord? Objection. Rachel said. Relevance. Goes to bias. Your Honor. Voss said, even though there was no judge present, a separated spouse is often less than objective. Overruled. He answered himself. Answer the question. Mr. Price, our personal relationship is strained. Strained. Is that a euphemism for she kicked me out? No. Did you feel betrayed when you discovered she was accessing your files? Yes. Betrayed enough to want revenge? Objection. Call for speculation. I'll rephrase. Did you contact the U.S. Attorney's office shortly after discovering your wife's actions? Yes. Within hours? Approximately. And why the rush? Mr. Price, why not discuss it with your wife first? Because what she did was illegal. Or because you were angry? Objection. Argumentative. Withdrawn. Mr. Price, do you recall texting your wife on the evening of May 9th? You're going to regret this? I recall. Regret what? Precisely? Accessing privileged evidence. Or regretting that she didn't choose you over her ex-husband. Rachel stood. That's enough. Voss smiled. I'm just exploring motive. Counsel, explore it somewhere else. Next question. But he'd made his point. And Lauren, she didn't even blink. After 2 hours, Rachel cut it short. We're done. Voss gathered his papers. See you on the stand. Ethan. Lauren stood. As she passed me, she whispered, you're doing great. Real convincing. I didn't respond. Outside, Rachel was furious. He got under your skin. He didn't. He did. You hesitated on the revenge question. That's all he needs. I answered honestly. Honesty is not the issue. Perception is. And perception says you're a scorned husband. Then we fix perception. How? I testify. I tell the truth. And I don't flinch. She studied me. All right, but if you so much as waver, I'm pulling you. And Lauren walks. She won't walk. She will if the jury thinks you're lying. That night, I watched the news. They played clips from the deposition. Voss's voice, Mr. Price, did you feel betrayed? My face, tight, pausing. Marcus called. You saw it? I saw it. We need to workshop that pause. There's no workshopping. I either tell the truth or I don't. Then tell it faster. No pauses. No hesitations. Short answers. Yes. No. I don't recall. That's it. Got it. But I didn't. Because the truth wasn't simple. And Voss knew it. He knew exactly which questions would make me hesitate. Exactly which memories would surface. And Lauren, she knew me better than anyone. Knew which buttons to push. I realized then, this wasn't just a trial. It was a war. And I was fighting on two fronts. Against Daniel Carter's lies. And against my own wife's truth. The next morning, Rachel called. We're putting you on the stand today. After the forensic accountant. Be ready. I hung up and stared at my reflection. Ready wasn't the word. Surviving was. Rachel put me on right after lunch. I'd been watching the forensic accountant, Ellen Cho, walk the jury through spreadsheets for 2 hours. She was good, dry, but precise. When she finished, Judge Castillo looked at Rachel. Call your next witness. The government calls Ethan Price. I stood, felt every eye in the gallery. Lauren didn't turn. Daniel did. Just for a second. Voss was already on his feet, adjusting his tie like he'd been waiting for this since the indictment. I took the oath, raised my right hand, said, "I do," without looking at Lauren. Rachel started soft. Name, occupation, experience. Then she moved. "Mr. Price, were you involved in an investigation related to Daniel Carter in early spring of this year?" "Yes." "Under what authority?" "I was retained by a private client to examine financial irregularities in a nonprofit, Mr. Carter formally directed. Did that investigation yield documentary evidence?" "It did." "Were you in possession of bank transfer logs from First Midwest Bank, covering January through March?" "Yes." "An internal memorandum dated March 2nd?" "Yes." "And a screenshot of an encrypted chat between Mr. Carter and his NIT director?" "Yes." "Where were these documents stored?" "In a locked drawer in my home office." "Who had access to that office?" "Myself. My wife, Lauren Price, had a key." "Did you authorize her to access those documents?" "No." "Did you become aware that she had accessed them?" "Yes." "On the night of May 9th. "How?" "I returned home late. Found her in my office. The drawer had been opened. The documents were out of order." "What did you do?" "I confronted her. She admitted to looking at them." "Did she return them?" "Not immediately. The next morning. I discovered several pages were missing." "Which pages?" "The bank logs, the March 2nd memo, and the chat screenshot." "What did you do then?" "I reviewed the remaining documents, compared them to digital copies I'd made. I determined that the versions my wife had taken had been altered." "In what way?" "Dates were shifted on the bank logs. The sender field on the memo had been changed. The chat screenshot was absent entirely." "Did you preserve the originals?" "I did. They're in evidence as government exhibits 42 through 44. Rachel turned to the jury. No further questions. Voss stood, moved toward me like he owned the floor. "Mr. Price, you say you made digital copies of these documents. When?" "Within 24 hours of receiving the originals." "Convenient." Objection. Rachel said. Argumentative. Sustained. Voss smiled. "Mr. Price, isn't it true that you and your wife were having marital difficulties throughout this period?" "We were experiencing tension." "Tension. Is that a lawyerly way of saying you were fighting?" "We disagreed." "About what?" "Her involvement in Mr. Carter's defense." "And that upset you?" "It concerned me, because you felt she was choosing her ex-husband over you." Objection. Calls for speculation. Overruled. Answer the question. "Mr. Price, I felt she was prioritizing his case over our marriage." "Yes." "And that made you angry." "I was concerned." "Angry." "Hurt." "Betrayed." Pick one. Objection. Asked and answered. Sustained. Move along. "Mr. Voss." Voss didn't move. "Mr. Price, isn't it true that you contacted the U.S. Attorney's Office within hours of confronting your wife?" "Yes." "Before speaking to your client?" "I spoke to my client afterward." "Afterward. So your first instinct was to run to the government." "My first instinct was to report a crime." "A crime your wife committed, not Mr. Carter." "Both." "Convenient again. You sit on evidence for weeks. Then suddenly, when your wife touches it, it's a federal case." Objection. Mischaracterizes the timeline. Sustained. Voss leaned on the rail. "Mr. Price, did you alter those documents yourself?" "No." "Ever?" "No." "So the only alterations you're aware of were made by your wife." "Correct." "And you're sure of that?" "I am. Sure enough to swear under penalty of perjury." "Yes." "Even though you hated her for choosing another man." Objection. Rachel was on her feet. Withdrawn. Voss said, smiling, "I have no further questions." "Your Honor." But he wasn't done. As I stepped down, He murmured, "We'll see about those metadata reports." I didn't look back. Back in the witness room, Rachel joined me. She was tense. "He's going after the metadata," she said. "I know. We need to get ahead of it. I'm calling Patel to put on the forensic tech this afternoon. We'll establish chain of custody. Hash values. The works. Will it hold? It'll hold if the tech is bulletproof. And if you don't crack on redirect, I won't. You better not. Because if Voss can sow doubt about those files, the whole case collapses. At 3 p.m., the forensic examiner, Kevin Alvarez from the FBI's Cybercrimes Unit, took the stand. Methodical, dry, perfect. He explained how he'd verified the integrity of my digital copies using SHA 256 hashes, how the timestamps matched my sworn declaration, how the altered versions filed by the defense showed inconsistencies in file headers, suggesting post-creation modification. Voss cross-examined for 40 minutes. Tried to imply Alvarez was biased because the FBI and AUSA's office worked together regularly. Tried to suggest I could have tampered before handing the files over. Alvarez didn't budge. Then Voss pulled his punch. "Mr. Alvarez, is it possible for someone with advanced technical knowledge to alter a document's metadata to reflect an earlier creation date? Possible. Yes. Likely? No. Especially not without leaving trace artifacts in the file structure." "Trace artifacts? Like the ones you found in the defense's versions?" "Yes, but not in Mr. Price's versions." "Correct. So, Mr. Price's copies are pristine, based on my analysis." "Yes." Voss sat down. Rachel declined redirect. The judge adjourned for the day. I was walking out when a marshal stopped me. "Mr. Price, Ms. Mendez wants you in her office." Now. Rachel was waiting. Door closed. She didn't sit. "We've got a problem," she said. "What kind?" "Lauren's filing a motion to dismiss based on prosecutorial misconduct. She's claiming we coerce you into falsifying evidence." "That's insane. It's strategic. She's trying to get the judge to suppress your testimony. If she succeeds, the government's case craters." "What's the basis?" "Your deposition transcript. She's pointing to your hesitation on the betrayal question, arguing it shows you're not credible. Also, she subpoenaed your client. My client has privilege. Now the judge finds a privilege was used to conceal fraud. She's arguing your entire investigation was a sham to build a case against her. She's reaching. She's desperate. And desperate lawyers do crazy things, including alleging witness tampering. By who? By me. She's claiming I threatened to indict you unless you testified her way. That's a lie. Of course. But the judge has to hear it. Hearings tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. I'll be there. Be ready. Voss will question you again, under oath, in front of Castillo. That night, I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. I kept replaying Voss's questions, Alvarez's answers, Lauren's face blank, unreadable. At 11 p.m., my phone rang. Unknown number. I answered. "Ethan." Lauren's voice. "Quiet. What do you want?" "To warn you. I don't need warning from you. The hearing tomorrow is not about the evidence. It's about you. Voss is going to ask if I ever told you I was pregnant." I froze. 3 years ago, she said, before the divorce, before Daniel. "I told you. You said it wasn't a good time, that we were too unstable. You made me stop. You made me end it. Ethan. And I've never forgotten that. Neither has Voss. He knows. And tomorrow, he's going to ask. And when you deny it, I'll produce the clinic records. And then you'll be the liar. Not me. You're bluffing. Am I? Check your mailbox. Ethan, check it now." I hung up, walked to the hotel lobby, found the night clerk, got my key, took the elevator, opened my door. On the bed, a manila envelope. No stamp, no address, just my name. Inside, a receipt from a women's clinic, dated 3 years ago. Lauren Price. Procedure, termination of pregnancy. Signed consent, Ethan Price. My hand shook. I sat on the edge of the bed, stared at the signature. It looked real, too real. I called Rachel. Straight to voicemail. Texted, call me. Urgent. She didn't reply. At 2 a.m., I drove to a 24-hour pharmacy, bought a shredder, shredded the receipt, bagged the strips, threw them in 3 different dumpsters across the city. Back at the hotel, I wiped my phone, deleted every text from Lauren, every email, every photo. I couldn't stop the hearing, couldn't stop Voss from asking, but I could control my answer. When he asked, I'd say I don't recall. It wasn't a lie. Not exactly. Memory is fallible. People forget, especially things they wish hadn't happened. At 7 a.m., I met Rachel outside the courtroom. You look like hell, she said. Didn't sleep. Nervous? Prepared. The hearing started at 8. Judge Castillo on the bench. Voss stood first. Your Honor, the defense moves to dismiss based on prosecutorial misconduct and witness coercion. Specifically, we contend that the government induced Mr. Ethan Price to provide false testimony regarding documentary evidence in this matter. Rachel rose. Your Honor, the government categorically denies these allegations. Mr. Price's testimony is corroborated by forensic evidence and contemporaneous documentation. I'll hear from Mr. Price, Castillo said. Mr. Voss, you may inquire. Voss approached. Mr. Price, isn't it true that you terminated a pregnancy with your wife 3 years ago? Rachel objected. Irrelevant. Highly relevant. Your Honor goes to bias, credibility, and motive. Castillo studied me. Overruled. Answer. I took a breath. I don't recall. You don't recall your wife undergoing a medical procedure? I don't recall the specific event. Did you sign a consent form? I don't recall. Isn't it true that you pressured your wife to terminate that pregnancy? Objection. Calls for speculation. Overruled. Answer. I don't recall pressuring her, but you don't deny it happened. I don't recall. Voss turned to the judge. Your Honor, we have a signed consent form bearing Mr. Price's signature. If he doesn't recall, how can we trust his memory regarding far more complex financial transactions? Rachel stood. Your Honor, the defense is attempting to distract this court with irrelevant personal history. Mr. Price's recollection, or lack thereof, regarding a private medical matter has no bearing on the forensic integrity of the evidence in question. Castillo nodded. I agree. The motion to dismiss is denied. However, Mr. Price's credibility is now squarely before the jury. They may consider his lapse in memory when weighing his testimony. Voss smiled. Thank you, Your Honor. As I stepped down, Lauren finally looked at me. Her eyes were wet. Not crying, just wet. That night, Rachel called. You held up. Barely. But you're damaged goods now. The jury heard you dodge. Voss will hammer that tomorrow. I did what I had to. You did what you could. But, Ethan, if there's anything else, anything at all, you tell me now. Because if you surprise me on the stand again, I'll let you hang. There's nothing else. Good. Because we're entering closing arguments next week. And I need you steady. After she hung up, I sat in the dark, thinking about the receipt, the signature, the way Lauren had said, you made me. Maybe I had. Maybe I hadn't. Memory is a tricky thing. It bends. It breaks. It rewrites itself to survive. But one thing I knew for sure, Lauren wasn't just fighting for Daniel anymore. She was fighting me, and she was willing to burn every bridge, including the one that led back to us, to win. The next morning, the jury filed in. Voss stood for his closing. Ladies and gentlemen, you've heard from a man who couldn't remember the most significant moment of his marriage. A man who sat on evidence. A man who ran to the government the moment his wife crossed him. Ask yourselves, can you trust such a man? Can you convict based on his word? He paused, looked at Lauren, then back at the jury. Or is the real fraud not the defendants, but the government's? Rachel would go after that. Hard. But I wasn't listening anymore. I was watching Lauren. And for the first time, I saw it. Not fear. Not anger. Defeat. She knew she'd lost. And I knew this wasn't the end. It was just the beginning of the unraveling. The jury deliberated for 2 days. 26 hours. long enough for the press to start calling it a hung jury on Twitter, long enough for Voss to start smiling in the hallway like he'd already won. Rachel didn't smile. She paced, chewed pens, checked her phone every 3 minutes. I stayed away from the courthouse the second day. Marcus insisted, "You're poison in that gallery right now. Every time the jury sees you, Voss reminds him you couldn't remember your own wife's pregnancy. Let Rachel handle the optics." So I waited in the hotel, watched the local news, listened to legal analysts speculate. Most said the government's forensic evidence was strong, but my credibility was a gaping hole. One former prosecutor put it bluntly, if the jury doesn't buy the investigator, they won't buy the spreadsheets. At 4 p.m., my phone rang. "Rachel, they're back," she said. "Get here, now." I was in a cab in 5 minutes. At the Dirksen building. Security waved me through. I took the elevator up, walked into the gallery just as the jury filed in. 12 people. None of them looked at me. Judge Castillo took the bench. "Ladies and gentlemen, have you reached a verdict?" The foreperson, a middle-aged woman in a navy blazer, stood. "We have, Your Honor." She handed the verdict form to the bailiff, who handed it to the judge. Castillo read it silently. His face didn't change. "Madam Foreperson, how do you find as to count 1? Conspiracy to defraud the United States?" "Guilty." Voss didn't move. Lauren didn't either. Daniel exhaled. "Too loud." "Count 2. Tampering with evidence?" "Guilty." "Count 3. Obstruction of justice?" "Guilty." "Count 4. False statements to a federal agent?" "Guilty." "Count 5. Wire fraud?" "Guilty." "Count 6. Aggravated identity theft?" "Guilty." The courtroom was silent. No gasps, no outbursts, just silence. Judge Castillo looked at Lauren. "Ms. Price, please stand." She did, slowly. "As to count 7, aiding and abetting tampering with evidence?" "Guilty," the foreperson said. "Count 8, aiding and abetting obstruction of justice?" "Guilty." "Count 9, false declarations before a grand jury?" "Guilty." Lauren's shoulders dropped half an inch. That was it. No tears, no collapse, just a half-inch surrender. Judge Castillo set sentencing for 60 days out. Denied bond. Ordered Lauren taken into custody. 2 marshals moved in. One touched her elbow. She shrugged him off, walked to the defense table, picked up her pen, her legal pad, her reading glasses, placed them neatly in her briefcase, closed it, handed it to Voss. Then she turned to the gallery, looked right at me. "You got your truth," she said. Her voice was steady, live with it. The marshals led her out. Daniel followed. Head down. Voss packed up the rest of the files, avoiding eye contact with everyone. Rachel stood beside me. "Don't say a word," she muttered. "Not here. Not yet." We left through the side exit. Reporters were already shouting questions, cameras flashing. Rachel's assistant hustled us into a sedan. We drove 2 blocks before anyone spoke. "She's done," Rachel said. "Disbarment's automatic. Sentencing guidelines are brutal. 15 to 20 for the obstruction counts alone, plus perjury. She'll get 5 years minimum. Probably more." "What about Daniel?" I asked. "He's cooked. Guidelines call for 17 to 22. He'll plead for less. But with Lauren's conviction, he's got no leverage. Voss will try to appeal. But the forensic evidence is airtight. The verdict stands." "And me?" Rachel looked at me. "You're clear. Immunity holds. But your career's over in Chicago. Too toxic. Too much baggage. You'll need to relocate. Maybe D.C. Maybe New York. Someplace where nobody cares about your marital drama." "I'm not leaving." "Then you're staying as a guy who ratted out his wife. Think about that." I did. All the way back to the hotel. I ordered room service. Didn't eat. Sat on the bed, staring at the TV. News channels looped the verdict. Lauren's face. Daniel's. Mine briefly. A clip of me leaving the courthouse. Head down. At 9 p.m. Marcus called. "You saw it." "I saw it." "You okay?" "No." "Join the club." "Look, I've been thinking." You need to get ahead of the narrative. Write an op-ed. Something about ethical obligations. Why you came forward. Keep it high-minded. No personal attacks on Lauren. Just the facts. I'm not writing an op-ed. Then you're letting Voss define you. He's already spinning this as a witch hunt. If you don't push back, that's what sticks. I don't care what sticks. You should, because in 6 months, nobody's going to remember the forensic accountant. They're going to remember that you couldn't remember your wife's pregnancy. That's your legacy. Ethan, unless you rewrite it. I hung up at 10:15. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Same area code as the jail. I don't blame you. I blame the system. But mostly, I blame myself. I stared at it, deleted it, then regretted deleting it. Couldn't retrieve it. The next morning, I went to the office. Empty. Marcus had cleared out. Left a note, taking a few days. Don't do anything stupid. I sat at my desk. Opened my email. Hundreds of messages. Most unread. One from the Illinois Attorney Registration and Disciplinary Commission. Notice of investigation. Ethan Price. Attached was a complaint filed by Voss alleging ethical violations stemming from my withholding of exculpatory evidence. I drafted a response. Short, factual, attached the immunity agreement. Hit send. Then I called Rachel. I got the ERDC notice. I said, expected. We'll handle it. Your immunity covers professional conduct related to the investigation. They can't touch you. And Lauren? She's in MCC. Metropolitan Correctional Center. Downtown. No visitors except counsel. Voss is handling her appeals. Can I write her? You can. But don't. Nothing you say will help. Everything you say will be used. Against you. Against her. Against whoever. I just want to understand why. You won't. Not from a letter. Not from a visit. Some people don't have a why. They just have a breaking point. I hung up, stared at the wall. For the next 2 weeks, I went through the motions, responded to discovery requests, met with Rachel, avoided the news, stopped answering my phone. Then, one afternoon, the receptionist buzzed. Ethan, there's a Rachel Mendez here to see you. Rachel walked in, closed the door, sat without asking. Lauren's filing a Pro Se motion. She said, Pro Se? She fired Voss. Decided to represent herself on the disbarment portion, claims ineffective assistance of counsel, also claims you coerced her into altering the evidence. That's insane. It's also dangerous. If she gets a hearing, she can subpoena you again, put you under oath, drag this out for months. Can she win? No, but she can hurt you. Professionally, financially, emotionally. She's got nothing left to lose. Ethan, that makes her unpredictable. What do? Nothing. Let the bar handle it. Let me handle her. You stay silent. And if she contacts me, ignore her. Block her. Change your number if you have to. Easier said than done. That night, another text. Do you ever wonder what would have happened if I'd chosen you instead? I didn't delete it. I read it 10 times. Then I blocked the number. But the question stayed. 3 days later, the Chicago Bar Association announced Lauren's disbarment, effective immediately. The order cited multiple violations of the rules of professional conduct, including dishonesty, fraud, deceit, and misrepresentation. It was final. No appeal. The Tribune ran an editorial. When officers of court become obstacles to justice, they mention Lauren by name. Didn't mention me. Small mercy. Marcus came back to the office the next week. Found me buried in paperwork. You look like death, he said. Feel like it. You need to decide. Stay and fight the ghosts, or leave and start over. I don't know how to start over. You start by not looking over your shoulder every 5 seconds, by not flinching when someone says her name, by not reading text from county jail. She's not texting anymore. Good. Keep it that way. He left me a bottle of bourbon. I didn't drink it. I poured it down the sink. That weekend, I drove to Michigan, rented a cabin. No phone, no internet, just trees and silence. On Sunday night, I came back, turned on my phone, dozens of notifications. One email stood out. from a domain I didn't recognize. Subject, regarding Lauren Price. I opened it. Mr. Price, I represent the Federal Bureau of Prisons. Ms. Price has requested that you be notified of her designation to FCI Pekin, a minimum security facility, effective Monday. She has also requested that you receive a letter, hand-delivered via U.S. mail. It is en route. Please be advised that any response on your part may be monitored and used in ongoing disciplinary proceedings. BOP Legal Office, the letter arrived Tuesday. Plain white envelope. No return address. Inside, a single sheet. Ethan Pekin is quiet. The other inmates call me counsel. Ironic. I spend my days folding laundry and thinking about the March 2nd memo. Not the altered one. The real one. The one you never turned over. The one that proved Daniel was innocent of the worst parts. You kept it. I know you did. Not out of loyalty. Out of spite. You wanted him to burn. And he did. But I burned too. Was it worth it? I hope the silence answers you. Because I won't write again. I read it twice. Then I checked the filing cabinet. The safe. The hidden compartment behind the false back. The original March 2nd memo was gone. I sat on the floor, heart pounding. She'd taken it. Before the arrest. Before the trial. Before the verdict. She'd replaced it with the altered version and stolen the real one, which meant Daniel Carter hadn't embezzled the grant money. Not all of it. The CFO had. Daniel had covered it up. And Lauren had known. And I had known deep down, but I'd let the trial happen anyway, because I wanted her to pay. I wanted her to lose. And she had. But so had I. I burned the letter, watched the edges curl, the ink dissolve, the paper turn to ash. Then I called Rachel. She had the original. I said, "Who?" "Lauren. The real March 2nd memo." She took it before I even knew. She's known all along Daniel wasn't guilty of the full charges. Silence. Then, doesn't matter now. The verdict's in. The appeals won't overturn on that. Not after her own admissions. Not after the forensic evidence. But it's a lie. It's the law. Ethan, we don't retry cases because someone found a cleaner version of the truth. We retry when the process fails. And the process didn't fail. She failed. I failed. Maybe. But you're the only one who'll lose sleep over it. She hung up. I didn't sleep. Not that night. Not the next. I kept seeing Lauren's face in the courtroom. The half-inch drop of her shoulders. The quiet live with it. I would, for the rest of my life.